Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here at this week's episode of the Market Monday. This week I am going to focus on the state of Magic the Gathering, the future of Magic the Gathering, and where I think it is headed. So at the first of the year, we saw the growth of Magic Arena just explode when open beta was announced, and I posed the question whether or not Wizards would be able to capitalize on this growth, or even more important, would be able to sustain the growth that Magic Arena had experienced, just kind of the energy that it had, and a lot of the streamers coming over from Hearthstone and other games. And I was still unsure because we all know I have kind of a rocky history with Magic the Gathering. I've been very critical of some of their decisions in the past. Anything from community management to support for local game stores to direct sales to a lot of the direction they've gone, it seems to be counterintuitive or counterproductive to stabilizing a good paper and community, a good just overall growth for the game. And I think that we did experience huge stagnation in 2017 and 2018, where the one good shining light for those 2 years was the whales seemed to be getting fatter, meaning that the people that were already franchised into the game, or enfranchised in the game, were spending a lot more money than previous years. However, the player growth was quite stagnant. We had some pretty awful standards in that time period. Modern wasn't moving. The reserve list flattened out. There was a lot of indications that we were in that period of more of a bear market rather than a bull market. But we did see some surprising indicators in aspects like when Dominaria was released, and again, as soon as we saw Open Arena just explode, I knew that Magic was headed in the right direction. So I guess we can start answering some of those questions, and to my surprise, because I am actually positively surprised, Wizards has seemed to be doing the right things for this game. Now, of course, we're not out of the clear yet. I think that Wizards needs to go over a lot of hurdles to make this. Last time around when we had this insane growth was during Ravnica or the Return to Ravnica era, where you could just feel the energy. But unfortunately, Wizards just became complacent. They weren't very good at keeping their player base, and we saw a massive decline from, I would say, the height of Theros, Khans of Tarkir, all the way to Eldritch Moon. I say all the way to Dominaria. We were on a downward spiral. Kaladesh all through Hour Devastation and Ixalan. Those were pretty downers comparatively to the years before that for Magic the Gathering Grand Prix attendance, to sales, to a lot of things just surrounding the entire MTG market. So now we're actually seeing a huge boom, and it's more than just the market indicators that are starting to look good. It's just Wizards of the Coast. So let's talk about some things that happened over the weekend. The first was Wizards of the Coast finally actually released a decent Magic the Gathering trailer. Now, I'm not going to jump on the hype train here and talk how this is the best trailer ever and people comparing it to Blizzard's trailers. No, we're not to that level yet. But at least this is much better than those half-assed cheesy animating the cards and horrible voiceovers for previews for sets. So this was a very good trailer by Magic the Gathering. I think that they should continue to do this. It was number 3 on trending at one point on YouTube, and is still a day later number 27 on trending with 5.5 million views, which is huge for Magic the Gathering for their channel. They haven't had a trailer even come close to this before. It wouldn't surprise me if this is their most viewed video of all time. And again, that is a great sign. The energy is there. It looks like they put some production quality, and if they're willing to do this for trailer, maybe they're willing to do this with the rest of the game. Then we have the Mythic Invitational was actually a huge hit. Now, I personally did not like the Mythic Invitational either as far as a competitive Magic tournament. However, they keep reiterating that this was not supposed to be a competitive. It was supposed to be a showcase, which again, I'm okay with. I think that this was, there of course is a huge disconnect with the pros saying that why is the most money that's ever been paid out just for more like a celebrity, more like some people compared it to a home run derby rather than the World Series. Why was the home run derby the huge focus? But to getting the casuals, which is, I still am a big believer that casuals are the most important demographic in Magic the Gathering, for the local game store, even for the paper price. And the sharks are always going to need casuals to prey on. The spikes are going to always need Timmies to beat up on at tournaments. I mean, it's kind of the ecosystem. So getting more and more casuals into the scene is actually a good thing. So the Mythic Invitational hits over 100K viewers. This is the first time. It's double most of the Pro Tours and the other streams we've had in the past from Wizards of the Coast or Magic the Gathering, and it just shows you that they made the correct decision with how they did this at PAX East, did this with the format they did, knock out of the park for Wizards, which again is a good thing. Now, we are hearing a lot of just discontent with people, more old school players, that this isn't Magic. This is completely different from the good old days of really being a spike-centric environment with how we used to do the competitive scene, and where it's starting to appeal to, this new player base. But again, like I said, competitive scene will grow as well with casual. If you actually do really work on the casual base, the competitive base, I think, also reaps the rewards of that. So I'm also going to be expecting the Grand Prix attendance to go back up and the competitive scene to be reinvigorated or revitalized from the Mythic Invitational. It's going to get a lot more people into Magic and even into the competitive scene, even though this was a casual thing. So again, it was just a huge success over the weekend. We have people touting about the $1 million prize pool, and this was much more than we've ever seen from Magic the Gathering. I just had like a friend top 8 a Grand Prix and took home a whopping $1,000, which is pitiful. I mean, you can find like side events for lower or for even mid games this day and age that can make you that much. So Wizards does have, like I said, some hurdles to overcome and some more things to work on before we can really be in the clear and really know that this is onto a full bull market. But again, the energy is there, and that's just what's happened the weekend. So let's look at the market indicators now. So what I really like about the market indicators is basically every metric is up right now. We have standard prices that are holding a lot higher. Like look at Ravnica Allegiance and Guilds of Ravnica. Their box EVs are much higher at this time period of being released than we've seen other sets, which means that not only, sales are quite high too. So we've seen high sales. Mainly, I don't know if we can compare this, like it might not be comparing apples to apples when you compare a set like this to a set that has either fetch lands or expeditions masterpieces in it, because you continue to get the whales to continue to purchase these products to try to gamble for those cards. However, the Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance continue to be sold at a very, very high rate, and it hasn't crashed the prices like we have seen in the past. We even have commander cards that are holding value in a heavily open sets, like the Smothering Tides, which is a good indicator of the sets. We have the first standard set, which is now sold out when it is still in its lifetime, which is Dominaria. We haven't seen that since New Phyrexia, which again happened during the other boom when Magic the Gathering just took off. Last time around, when we had the Ravnica Allegiance, we saw prices go crazy, Return to Ravnica, we saw prices go crazy. Modern cards triple up in value, standard cards going from a very stale, kind of stagnant standard where a rare hardly ever got over $5 to where rares could hit up to $20 with Mutavaults at the time. So this is the same sort of energy that I remember experiencing back then. So this is awesome as far as a market indicator. To kind of show you what I'm talking about here, we have even cards that should be going down in value due to rotation, holding a nice steady price, and even cards that have been recently printed with going out of their print cycle of being drafted in their limited environment, still holding a nice, look at Bedevil or Smothering Tithe and Kaya Orzhov Usurper. These are really, really good indications. Speculation cards like Liliana jumping up in value because of a new set. This just shows a lot of energy for the upcoming market, the upcoming scene of Magic the Gathering. So where do we go from here? I guess that's what I want to talk about now my rambling's done. And I'm going to give you where I think the market is going to shift the quickest and kind of give you a rating on each of those. So I like to break this down into different categories. If you go over to my Rogue Market channel, I always talk about how I like to invest in cards that are mainly Commander and Modern. Those are the two biggies. I also do still look at Legacy, and I will look at Pauper, and I will even look at Standard. But Standard, you got to think, has the lowest shelf life. Standard has there's definitely a time and a place for specifics on Standard. We're coming up to what I like to call the pre-rotation time. It's right before rotation happens, where a lot of cards will be at their bottom. There will be specific cards that are just being outclassed by something in their slot. So, for example, anything that has a 5 converted mana cost in white should be something that should be relooked at, because why would you ever play a specific card over something like Lyra? So same thing with History of Benalia. History of Benalia might be pushing out a lot of cards that are actually quite decent, and when it rotates, there might actually be a slot for these cards. You can also look at color pairings that just don't work. There are a lot of color pairings that just cannot match up versus the green-black Explorer archetype or the Izzet Phoenix, for example. But however, if those rotate, maybe they start to look good in this other environment. We do have kind of a boogeyman Standard that it's kind of does remind me of Return to Ravnica Standard, where the archetypes were really, really pushed to one direction. We had an ultra control deck with Sphinx's Revelation and Supreme Verdict. We had a really, really proficient burn deck with Boros Charm, Lightning Strike, and there was another 4 damage spell, Warrior's Helix in the mix. And that's very, reminiscent right now of the mono red aggro. And we had a mono black control that played the tempo deck quite well. It's very comparable to like the Hydro Krasis decks at the moment. So usually when Standard gets pushed in these directions, it makes it so a lot of the other decks are just completely unplayable. But I think that's going to open up after rotation, and it makes for a very interesting Standard with what cards might be good. And of course, what cards actually that are good right now might actually lose their spot because of all the support cards are rotating out. So that will be an interesting time for another day. That's when you look at Standard. However, across the board, I am very, very bullish of Standard. I think right now, going back to Guilds of Ravnica, there's a lot of undervalued cards like March of the Multitudes and Trostanis that I think are great pickups. I think that the Shocklands will continue to rise. We might see $20 Shocklands again in the Standard environment post-rotation. There are many other cards that post-rotation from these two sets we have out right now that I think are destined to go up. If you're looking for specifics, definitely come check out my channel at Rogue Market, where I'll get more into the specifics. So Standard, I'm very bullish on. We are headed towards rotation, though, so be very, very careful with anything from Dominaria, Core 19, or any of the Ixalons. The Commander cards have been recovering quite good. This one surprised me in particular, which is Etali. Etali Primal Storm, the whole reason is there's a Walmart printing of Etali the Primal Storm. This is a specific promo that was made for Walmarts and Targets for the 3-packs, I believe. If you buy the 3-packs at Walmart, there's an Etali. It's got all the mana symbols on it, a shiny one. I'll have to find an example of that sometime. So usually when these type of cards get printed, they crush the price of the cards. However, Etali, this happened about here-ish is where it happened, and you can see that it only crushed the value about $1 from the $4.50, and look, Etali's back to recovered. So this is pretty crazy about a card in Standard right now. Still, Rivals of Ixalan can, it's not rotated out. The packs aren't hard to come by, and this card is going up in value, which is a very, very good indication for the Commander format and just Magic in general. There are many other cards like this. We have like Helm with a Host. We have Dominaria, which, like I said, is sold out. I'm pretty sure they printed the supply of Dominaria as high as Kaladesh, and it sold out way before like Kaladesh and Aether Revolt sold out. So that's a huge indicator that packs are moving, and that Wizard is probably going to have to increase their print runs in the future sets. So huge good indicators for Standard. If we actually go over to Modern, this paints kind of a different picture at the moment. Modern is kind of in a weird position because no one knows exactly what Modern Horizons is going to do the format. So investing in cards from Modern is a little bit of a crapshoot right now. You could definitely win big. You can definitely get burned if the format does turn into a Legacy Light, and we're seeing the power level go up because of Modern Horizons and pushing out a bunch of decks. But I'm going to be very bullish on Commander as a format with Modern Horizons. I think that it will it will generate a lot of buzz for the format. There will be a lot of brewing. There will probably be a big modern tournament, which will mean all the pro teams will need to pick up copies for their testing. And again, all the staples, all the slightly playable cards, I think, are going to have a huge increase in modern. But when we look at this movers and shakers on Goldfish here, it shows a different picture. That we're seeing a lot of commander cards that are going up in value. Even cards like Privileged Position, this is some price adjustment, but it just had a reprint out of the guild kits. Cards like Contagion Engine, because of Proliferate, the Chain Veil, doubling season going back up at Sakashima the Imposter, Blyseal Colossus, the Michael Synthelatus because it works with Tezzeret. These are indications of the casual. The commander cards are going nuts right now. And again, that is a lot from casual pressure. So one thing we have learned is Arena is translating into people playing at their local game store and is translating into commander and casual purchases, which is awesome because we are seeing people that have got into the gateway through Arena now seeing the beauty of Magic, all the ideas, possibilities, connections that can be had with the vast amount of Magic cards that exist. So that is a good sign. I think that we'll continue to see, especially this demographic, go up in value. One thing I have noticed at my own local game stores is this particular group that came from Arena that is starting to find out these other cards. I'm selling so many Hydras, for example, like casual Timmy Hydras. These people that are coming in, I want to build an Angel deck, I want to build a Demon deck, I want to build this. And it's because you can tell that they kind of got their start from the really unknown of Arena, where you're limited to standard cards, and then when they figure out that there is, wow, how many sets, 26 years of Magic to browse, and it's actually leading to a lot of what I call Timmy cards. They aren't the most the best competitive cards, but they're fun casual cards. So again, that's a very, very good indicator for the health of the game. The other ones that I want to look at is Legacy. Legacy has been stagnant as far as a reserve list, but this is another one that I think could go up. Now, this is the one that I think will be the slowest. I think we're going to see a Legacy reserve list 2.0 boom in 2 years. If you look at the natural transition with Magic players, they first get into something like Standard. After 1 or 2 rotations, they have this crossroad. A lot of them then go into Modern or they go into Commander. And then after a while at either Commander and Modern, you can see that they really start to even tune those decks and spend a lot of money in those particular formats and eventually decide that they're even go. I mean, of course, there's a little bit of a filter. Like, not everybody ever makes that jump. There will be a percentage that just drop out, but there will be a percentage that then convert over. And then for those players, there, of course, is the exact same percentage that converts over to these high-end collectors. And so I do think that we will be seeing a lot more collectors. We're seeing people that even got in during the old Return to Ravnica, starting to, so if you got into a teenager, now a lot of them are starting to become young professionals where they're going to have some money to now spend on things they never had to spend the money on. And so you could see them maybe getting back into Modern. That was a big format back there, but maybe even looking and say, hey, I want to pick up some of these cards I never experienced in the reserve list. And so I'm thinking that we are going to see another reserve list spike, but I think it will be the last one to hit. So my predictions are, I'm really bullish on post-rotation Standard. I think that sinking money in a lot of the format staples currently right now that probably won't get pushed out. Cards like Tithe Taker. Tithe Taker is a perfect one. That I think the power level of this one is already proven. I think it's a perfect card for many of these decks that stick around. I think that Azorius or aggro is pretty decent post-rotation. Celestia is very, very good post-rotation. And Boros, I think Tithe Taker could easily be the roadblock of choice to get the Boros Angels to the mid-range. I think that even we could go into Azorius Control or Azorius Tempo that uses Tithe Taker as the roadblock. We've seen the Doom Traveler have that, or even the Thraben Inspector play that role before, and it's a good card post-rotation, for example. So I think these are the type of cards that are the most interesting. They feel like the Jadelight Rangers. If we remember, Jadelight Ranger before rotation had a trajectory that looked like this. Again, there's a very, very short window in these cards. This was a $6 card, and then it went all the way up to a $15 card. This is same thing with this set. You'll see some probably devaluation a little more with the Tithe Taker, and then I think post rotation you'll see a very similar trajectory if this does hit a fair amount of decks. So those are the type of cards you definitely want to look at. But overall, I think the entire format is going to be going up in value. There's my $1 million questions right now is do I hold on to cards like the Rootbound Crag, or do I sell them right now? So this is a card we picked before rotation to actually go up in value. Hasn't done the greatest at the time because Gruul didn't see a lot of play. That's kind of a bad example. It's like a Glacial Fortress. I think this is a better example. Gruul just hasn't seen much play. But Glacial Fortress, this was pretty much a dub pickup. I knew this would see play about Ravnica Allegiance. It went from about $3 to about $6. And the $1 million question is, how much are you betting on these last few sets to have an influx of people into Paper Magic? And if so, I think the Glacial Fortresses could even be a pickup at the moment. I highly, highly would not advise it. I think this is a hold, though, and not a sell. So I still have a pile of these. I was hoping for the Glacial Fortress to go up a little bit more before I sold them off. The buy list is pretty promising at $3.50. However, that's just breaking even of where I invested. So I'd like to get higher than a buy list price of these type of cards. And that's kind of my $1 million question. How bullish do I think these next few sets are going to bring people into Paper Magic? And I've decided for myself, I am not selling. I am not selling even staple cards that are rotating because I'm thinking War of the Spark and the set that comes after War of the Spark will have enough people coming into the format that is going to retain the prices of these cards and even go up further. You can look at the other sets like from Dominaria, those lands in particular. Dominaria is now out of stock, so there's not going to be any of those cards entering the supply. So that's also very interesting with those, particularly the enemy-colored check lands. So anyway, that's standard. On to Modern. Modern, I am incredibly bullish just because even without a huge influx of new players into Magic, I think there will be enough energy from Modern Horizons. So I am holding all cards from Modern until Modern Horizons, and definitely even investing in low supply, kind of the more trending aspects of it. A good way to do this is just to be very, very keen on this Modern meta and look at these decks and look at the trends. Currently, people are actually filling in cards from for like Humans and Dredge and Titan and all ways to deal with like Phoenix. And I think that a lot of those cards, you can come and check out my Rogue Roundup this week. I definitely have a pick that fits perfectly in this slot that people are using to beat up the Phoenix deck. But anyway, Modern as an entire market, I think is going to be a really, really good place to park some money and hold for a while. I do suggest after the energy starts to clear up from Modern Horizons, it's probably a good time to sell, reinvest in cards that are hitting their low, so anything that comes out of those, and then rinse and repeat from there. So Pauper's another one that could hit, but I think Pauper's going to take a while. Like Legacy, I think if we ever see another kind of stagnant standard or Modern, Pauper could hit a resurgence. What we still need is a lot of support for Pauper, but eventually with a growing player base, it might just have a lot of converts into a format, especially if people are used to not paying much on Arena, transition over to Paper, want like a Paper thing. Arena Pauper is very popular, so Paper Pauper should hit home with a lot of those people that like the Arena Pauper, which again is a very, very popular format on the Arena. So last but not least, though, back to Legacy. Legacy and reserve list cards, I think, are a couple years out. But I think it's also a decent place to park your money. So in short, I think that if you could use the scattershot approach, just invest in Magic as a whole, and I think you're going to be easily making your money back within a year or 2 years. I think we're going to see a massive boom in the prices of cards, the player base, everything surrounding Magic. And this is coming from a naysayer. You got to remember, I'm not a cheerleader of the game. I'm pretty much checked out. I don't play a lot of Magic. I don't enjoy it. I thought the Mythic Invitational was the worst parts of Magic possible. I hate variants. I hate when I can't play a deck where I feel like my deck building power or my player ability comes into effect right now. I think the standard is riddled with coin flips and bad matchups and really luck of the draw. And of course, you can say that for any Magic format, but I think this one is more so than ones in the past. So again, what I'm trying to say is this is coming from a person that has been very critical, has been very hesitant of investing in Magic and this you can just go back to some videos from 2017, 2018. But I have changed my tune to this. I definitely see a resurgence in Magic. The energy is there. The buzz is there. The exact same feeling that we saw with Return to Ravnica has returned to now the War of the Spark or Ravnica. Man, they should just keep doing Ravnica if they're going to keep doing this. But anyway, I'm expecting Magic to hit records. 30, 35 million players is easily in the horizon. A lot of the non-US markets are booming. South America is booming. A lot of the Asian markets are booming with Magic the Gathering. European market is still strong. Canadian market and United States, North America is still very, very strong. And these are all incredible indicators for a good 2019 into 2010. Anyway, 2010. Yeah, skip some years, go back in time. 2020. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Kevin with the Rogue Market for Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.